Theme music. Yeah. All right.
Anyway, hey, welcome to the show. This is our show.
Yeah. Talking about guitars.
Yeah. So I'm John Gillen, and
I'm Dylan Murphy.
Yeah, and we're here because we like guitar and because our master's course is driving us crazy.
Yeah, essentially we'd be doing this anyway. We'd be talking about guitar and stuff because it's what we like. And we thought, hey, why not be really egotistical and share those thoughts with the world? Because somebody somewhere could probably enjoy hearing this.
Because I probably know better than you do. Or
yeah,
at
let's
least.
see elitist snobbery. Finally, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the truth is we both have spent a lot of time thinking about how to get better at guitar and realized there's just not a lot out there on how to integrate it into your daily practice routine. So there's a lot of material that says, here, play this, but how do you exactly wade through that material and how do you chop it up to actually make sense of it?
Yeah, guitar betterment is weighed down by a lot of nerds and weirdos on YouTube. And we thought, hey, why not be nerds and weirdos on podcast form? So yeah, John, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do musically and your guitar background?
Yeah.
Get around.
Get around.
Go on.
Go on. It's not fair. Yeah. So right now I teach guitar and
you was basically a school.
Yeah. Silver Sound Guitar. It's something I started up with a fellow guitar player named Mark Young, and he and I met in undergraduate and started playing some music together and started this business together where we teach. We employ also drum instructors and bass instructors and do audio engineering as well. So we've been able to see over the years kind of how a lot of practice procedures work, what's good, what's bad, what doesn't work.
It's a Silver Sound Guitar in Colorado.
Yes, exactly. So that's just silversoundguitar.com.
Cool.
Yeah. And as far as playing myself, one of the things that got me into it, of course, was seeing like Eddie Van Halen up there on stage tapping away on the guitar, and I thought, oh my god, I have to do this. So that kind of started things, and I learned a bit of jazz, and I did classical and jazz at university, and kind of came full circle into trying to find ways to incorporate that as well, and then that kind of brings me here.
Yeah, we're in Cork. We're in the music department and Sunday as well in University College Cork, and we are abusing the facilities and the equipment because hey, we paid a lot of money and we might as well get our money's worth.
Special thanks to John Hawk.
Special thanks to John Hawk. Cool. So you have a lot of guitar background, and you, from an educational standpoint and from a performance standpoint.
Yeah, and yourself. Tell us about you, Mr. Dylan Murphy.
Yes. John will sometimes revert to an English accent from time to time, especially when he says the word right. Right.
That's Monty Python. Yeah. I have to blame Monty Python for that. So
yeah. I'm Dylan Murphy. I am a singer, songwriter, guitar player. I play guitar for Stephen Sharp, who is a up and coming singer, songwriter, up and coming out. Singer-songwriter, and I have played lead guitar for him for like the last 3 years, and I've always really enjoyed guitar. I'm not that experienced a player with a lot of genres behind me. I just kind of picked it up when I realized that you couldn't bring drums to a party. So yeah, basically the point of this podcast, I suppose, is for us to kind of spitball about ideas on how to improve ourselves as guitar players and improve our guitar knowledge, because I see it as kind of like a master Padawan sort of thing, in that John knows a hell of a lot about guitars, and I don't really, and I'd like to broaden my knowledge and maybe take the embarrassment out of learning about guitar from you guys with all your questions that you're too scared to ask, like what's the difference between distortion and overdrive. I don't know, we'll be talking about it in a little bit.
Dylan is kind of great with the flattery. He himself is a great guitar player, and one of the things that I wanted to start this for, and one of the reasons I asked him in particular, is he spent a lot of time figuring out daily routines, time management, and that sort of thing, and has been able to apply it to his practice and his playing. And I mean, would you say it's already paying off?
Yeah, I would. I did a project as part of our performance studies module last semester on how to, I found it with all the being bombarded by college and daily life and daily existential crises.
And those are daily.
Yeah, and when you're doing a master's in creative art, existential crises are expected.
It wouldn't be so bad if it was actually a creative art.
Let's leave.
Well,
yeah. Anyway, so yeah, this kind of I basically put together this program from doing a lot of research about time management and self-help, how to kind of get the most out of your time from a musical perspective, and I put together a presentation and a paper on maximizing your performance. I did it from a singer-songwriter's point of view, but you could go basically branch it out into any sort of art, basically compiling a lot of advice given by pros on time management, which we are working on. So yeah, that's what this podcast is about, I suppose. This introductory episode, managing your time as a guitar player and improving your daily performance. So yeah. So I suppose we could start off with the pedal talk.
Yeah.
Pedal talk was it's kind of something John knows a lot about pedals, and I was like, what kind of pedals do you have? And he started, saying all these things, and I got lost after tuner pedal. I have a Boss DS1. If you don't know anything about guitar pedals or what a Boss DS1 is, you should probably turn this off now, because a Boss DS1 is your first guitar pedal that everyone should.
That's everyone's, well, either that or a metal zone.
Oh God. Mother of God. We should have like a little sound effect that we make whenever somebody says metal zone. No, or something like that. Yeah. So, my question, and it's a question that I've asked a lot of people, but hopefully you can shed some light on it. Distortion and overdrive, what are the differences? Because you get distortion pedals and you've got overdrive pedals, and basically they all make the thing go louder and grungier, for lack of a better word.
Right.
Can you elaborate?
Generally speaking, like an overdrive pedal comes from the idea of an overdriven amp. So you're trying to push more signal through the tube.
Cool.
The tube heats up and gives you...
The tube's in the back of the amp.
Yes,
okay.
Correct. So this is particularly with a tube amp as opposed to a solid state, obviously. So as that signal goes through the tubes, really what you're trying to do is you're trying to push that signal, get it hotter, and the signal begins to break up. Mm-hmm. And there's certain overtones that will come out in those that work better with that sound. Now, the difference between like an overdriven sound and how it's going to sound, it tends to be a little bit thicker. You might hear words like creamy associated with it, which is just kind of a bizarre description.
It's not yogurt.
Yeah, I have one pedal that's called the Extreme Cream or something like that, and yeah, it's like just
that sounds like porn.
You have this image of someone just putting, cream on apple pie or something.
There you go.
Yeah. Could I say something more American? But
by Superman.
There's baseball. So then, whereas an overdrive pedal is
you just talked about an overdrive.
I did. Whereas the distortion pedal is much more transistor oriented and trying to break the signal up as opposed to push it or fill it out. So that's kind of more the objective behind the circuitry that goes in it. Now, both pedals are typically solid state unless you're buying the Mark Tremonti.
Now, when you say solid state, what do you mean?
Well, they're chips, and solid state's actually not the correct term for it. So, but it's a chipset. There's no tube in them.
Okay.
And it's transistor wired.
So
most of the time, unless you're dropping a whole lot of cash for a tube overdrive pedal, it's even your overdrives are going to, like a tube screamer, for instance, is more of an overdrive pedal, whereas like your DS1 would be a distortion pedal.
Okay, so if you had to maybe give a song or something that sums up for distortion, I'd probably say maybe Smells Like Teen Spirit, because it kind of goes in from I don't know, I've got this association of clean sound at the start for the first 5 seconds, and then maybe just walls of distorted guitars. But maybe you can think of a better example.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared for this part, actually.
That's all right.
So
keep on your toes, Gillen.
Yeah, exactly.
So for overdrive, you could say the Ibanez Chief Screamer. Used by Stevie Ray Vaughan. He used 2 of them, I think.
Yeah, he did. So he would double those up. Similarly, like your blues driver, those sorts of sounds. The Boss Blues Driver is a really common one as well. So yeah, a lot of the Stevie Ray Vaughan sounds, when you're thinking of an overdrive, I mean, Led Zeppelin is that.
Okay.
So even if it's not with a pedal, but that's the kind of sound you're thinking of. So it tends to be a bigger one, or even think of some classic Clapton stuff.
Right. I'm just thinking of like what a hipster says when they talk about their vinyl. It's all about the warmth.
Yeah, no, it really is.
Yeah,
it really is. And even a high gain distortion pedal is not, or a high gain overdrive pedal is not going to break up like a distortion pedal. So, and then distortion almost borders on fuzz, but fuzz is a whole different discussion.
We'll do fuzz again.
Yeah. Fuzz, it can be one fuzz versus another fuzz. There's lots of fuzzy pedals.
There is.
So,
kind of going down Smashing Pumpkins territory there.
Yeah.
So distortion would be kind of, I don't want to use harsher or colder as opposed to warmer. It's much more of a kind of punky sort of sound.
Yeah, in terms of, like, if you think of a waveform, the waveform on an overdrive is going to be more like a typical curve.
Yeah.
Whereas you're looking at more of like a sine wave, hard angles and that sort of thing when you're thinking about a distortion pedal.
Okay.
So it is a little bit harsher. Things are more compacted. I don't want to say compressed because that gets into like the idea of a compression pedal, but generally speaking, it's going to be a little bit harsher.
Many pedals.
So many pedals. So much to talk about.
Do you use either an overdrive or a distortion pedal?
I typically
would you be partial to any one of them?
I gravitate a little more towards an overdrive.
I think most people do.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're starting off guitar, a DS1 is it's great because you can do all your.
Yeah, and they're cheap.
Yeah, they are cheap.
You know, so
cheap.
But that said, there's a lot of different distortions out there now, and it's worth at least kind of sampling an overdrive versus a distortion pedal, and it depends upon what you're going for. I mean, if you're thinking, like you said, Smells Like Teen Spirit, a lot of that 90s grunge sound is much more distortion oriented than overdriven oriented. So you can kind of lean that way with it. It just depends on what you want to do with it and what you want it to sound like.
Right. No, that's cool. I have been educated. Hopefully you've been educated too, dear listener. Whoever you are, probably a man. Not gonna
who likes
guitars. So you could be wearing a check shirt of some kind, or some Converse All-Stars. So I suppose we kind of came up with this idea of a podcast for this one theme, which was to improve yourself as a guitar player. And maybe improve yourself in other walks of life as well. But that's going down a different route. So our first topic of this podcast, or our only topic, our theme of this whole podcast is how to become a better player and improve your daily practice skills. So I suppose the first thing would be gear, or what to have when you're practicing.
And kind of a checklist is what you're saying.
Checklist is basically... So let's go down. So we've kind of made a list here. Our first one is maybe... simple, but it makes things a whole lot quicker than tuning by ear, getting a tuner. Now, John, for me, I prefer a headstock tuner that I will bring, but you use a tuner on your phone.
I do, but I do also have a headstock tuner as well.
Yeah.
You know, small and portable.
Yeah.
Like that's a good thing.
Buy a Snark. They're not expensive.
Yeah.
Next time you're doing a Coleman order, buy a Snark.
Yeah, it's worth the 20 quid for it. Like you can't go wrong really. But yeah, I do use something on my phone, and we'll get into the idea about phones in a little bit here, whether or not you should bring it along to your practice room.
It's a hot topic. Hot.
So but yeah, I have there's a couple of different tuners that are available, and find one that works, find one that you're comfortable with. There's like the Guitar Tuna. There's a couple others.
Are these apps you mean?
Yes, apps for your phone. I have I also have a Peterson one, which it's $10, and you have to really have a reason to get it. And
$10 for an app.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Right.
So
I have this thing where I can go out and spend a rake of money on alcohol, but then when it comes to like spending 99 cents on an app, I lose sleep over it.
Oh yeah,
It's not where I'm. If I can get it for free,
I can wrap my head around 99 cents, but like much more than that. You want $1.29?
Goodness gracious,
man. Yeah.
Moving on. So
a tuner.
Tuner's thing number one. Next thing is so you've probably heard this before. Get a metronome.
Yeah.
You can get an app. You can get a metronome app, but I use a little Korg blue bad boy that I use for my practice routines, and it's great because it fits in that tiny pocket in my guitar case.
I definitely recommend getting one that has a headphone jack if you're not using something on your phone.
Why would you recommend that?
Just because it could be the room you're in, like it gets really echoey.
Yeah.
It could also be your neighbors will hate you.
You really annoying.
So,
yeah.
Whether that's if you're practicing at work or you've got a space in an apartment or a house or whatever, just it's a good idea if need be. Others are in the house. They will hate you and your metronome if you can't kind of keep it quiet. So
Yeah.
keep that in mind.
And what would you recommend? Now we'll go through this in another episode, but what is the importance of a metronome? Can you stress?
So I think it's important to be able to play in time. That said, you could play along with a jam track, you could throw on some Apple loops and do something with that. But I think what the metronome does that those don't necessarily do is it forces you to break down the subdivisions of the beat.
Okay.
And I think that is a worthwhile endeavor to be able to figure out how an eighth note fits in between two quarter notes, how triplets fit, how 16th notes fit in the space of in between those two.
So as opposed to kind of playing, it's forcing you to analyze what you're doing rhythmically.
Yeah, exactly. I think both are important. I think it's important to play with a drummer because more often than not, you will be playing with a drummer, but you must learn to play with a click as well.
Yeah, for recording and whatnot.
Absolutely.
Our next thing would be, I suppose, okay, we got the tuner, metronome, bring a guitar.
That's
obviously.
Probably a good idea.
Have you seen these new travel guitars? These new
yeah.
ones built for practice. They're not that expensive.
Well, no, and I knew someone that had one that you could pack up in about a backpack, really. Yeah. And it was an electric guitar, and you could pull the side, so the core was wood, and then it had these metal tubing for essentially the body, and you could pull it apart and you pack it up, and off you go. And so it is one of those things, if you're serious about improving, but you still have to go to work from 9 to 5, like you can bring it with you, hang out in the lunchroom, put some headphones on.
You mean that guy that your coworkers are talking about.
Yeah, but you won't be able to hear them because you'll have your headphones on.
And
you'll be getting good at guitar. And then when you have your YouTube series, they'll be like, oh, I could have got good at guitar. But no.
Yeah. Moving on. So, for keeping your progress, I think it's really important to get a log, or so have some way of knowing what to do the next day and what to practice, and basically recording.
Yeah.
Your progress.
There's a lot there, I think, and we'll get into that later in this episode, because I think the idea of a log and what you do with it is actually really helpful. It's something that's helped my practice a lot. And then kind of the controversial one here, you want to cover this?
Okay, so there's a TED Talk that came out recently about practicing anything. If you want to practice anything to get good at it, you should not have any distractions. And one of those things is your phone, for me anyway. Now, I think for most of us, to be honest. Yeah, okay, a phone is a constant distraction. It's our life companion. It's whatever. But I find that I'm a much more efficient practicer, if that is a word, practitioner, if I do not have a phone in the room with me. Now, you would beg to differ.
Yeah, just because I have so many of those apps on my phone. I've got my tuner and a metronome. You can put GarageBand on there, so it can be something that you can jam out to. You can pull up backing tracks on YouTube or a number of other platforms as well.
See, that's the thing. Like, if you you're pulling up things on YouTube.
Yeah, and I'll concede that. So there's an element of discipline that has to be involved if you're going online for anything. And to be honest, I don't.
John, I don't have that discipline. I'm gonna
I don't. 100%. Well, and I don't know that many people.
Too many funny cats, John.
Do. So if it is going to be something like that, like I do have a playlist that is just backing tracks.
Okay. Yeah.
So like that's, but you have to be able to say like, okay, I'm going to sit there and put a timer down or something like that. And we'll get to some of these are things we'll talk about later today. But the other thing that I usually do with my phone though is I put it on airplane mode.
Okay.
So there is that extra step, and you have to really think about it. Like, what am I in this space to do, and why am I here? Before you make that switch, because you get the same effect. No one's going to call you. You're not going to see an email pop through. Your Clash of Clans might come up and tell you, your army's ready for battle. But you have to ask yourself, like, what's really important here? That I make sure my Archer Queen gets to level 30?
God, you're such a nerd. Such a colossal nerd.
You don't know the half of it, my friend.
The podcast was to get away from the whole guitar nerds thing, but you're just bringing loads of the nerds.
Yeah.
All right.
Pretty much.
Okay, so discipline, something you can work on. You can build self-discipline, but it's I don't.
But I think this is a good segue into what we're talking about next. Really. Mm-hmm. So really, what we're getting at is the need to eliminate distractions in your practice. So
just like unplug the phone if you have a landline, which you don't. Put your cat outside. It'll be okay, even if it's an indoor cat. When it probably won't be okay if you put it outside. Anyway,
you could lock it in another room.
Yeah, you could.
And then put your headphones on so you can't hear it.
Perfect. So yeah, eliminate distractions. Big part of discipline. Something that I think we could all really.
Yeah, I think some of it goes too, like in terms of the computer. The computer's a big thing too, because like you said, you're on YouTube and there's loads of funny animal videos.
Like I could go on my phone and use my app to tune my guitar. Next thing I know, I'm looking at some dank memes and Instagram. Yeah. Yeah.
So I do think the computer factors into that as well, because we do have so much of our recording technology is on our computers now.
Yeah.
Mine's on my laptop. I take it everywhere. So one of the things, like putting my phone on airplane mode, if I'm going to sit down and work on some of this stuff, or if I need to record something or practice with recorded drum track or something like that, I'm going to turn off the internet, turn off the Wi-Fi on it.
You possibly swayed me, Gillen.
Again, it's one of those, it is an extra step, and the fact of the matter is, like, the world's going to be okay without you for 30 minutes. It may only be 30 minutes, but the world will be okay for 30 minutes.
Okay, so let's bring that back into our daily practice. 30 minutes. Let's just go for time allocation right now. So what are your thoughts on time allocation? I find that time allocation, it's a difficult thing because you do have to make time to practice. Mm-hmm. And sometimes there can be guilt there that goes along with that, thinking, I should be doing something else, especially if you have a significant other or something else that needs some pressing issue. But no, if you want to get better as a guitar player, which we all do, you gotta make time for it, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let me just say right now, 20 minutes a day is much better than 2 hours at the weekend.
Oh, as a teacher, like, I can't tell you.
Yeah.
I've had students come in so many times like, I didn't practice much this week, but yesterday I got 2 hours, and then they can't play whatever they played yesterday.
Muscle memory, children.
So exactly, build it over time, and so planning out a time, I think, helps a lot.
So when do you, if you have to pick a time?
That's kind of a good question. I've done a couple of different things over my course as a guitar practitioner, if we can call it that.
Let's just go with that for now.
You can. Some people are insistent on like mornings or afternoons, but basically what it comes down to is pick a time where you have some time and say that's my time. Maybe it is your lunch hour at work. Maybe it's 20 minutes before you go to work, which means you have to get your butt out of bed a little bit earlier, or school, whatever the case may be. That's a hard one to do for a lot of people. But that said, instead of binge watching whatever you're going to binge watch on Netflix, take 20 minutes before you do that, watch one less episode, and make time.
Yeah.
That's
sounds like a good idea. Try and pair it with something else as well. If you can just okay, you've got an activity that you have to do or whatever. Guitar could be your break, your source of
That's a good one. And I've done that as well. In the middle of major projects or whatever, particularly in the course of a master's, which we're getting through at the moment.
You can't see this, but we're using the word masters with the quotation fingers.
Right.
Laser.
Yeah. But there's a lot of coursework to get through.
Yeah. And other stuff to do.
And I use a timer to sort of help me stay focused, like a focus timer, to help me stay focused on that. And then I take a chunk during one of those breaks. And it might be during a 5-minute break, I'm just like, hey, I can run one exercise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Or during a 25-minute break, I might be able to, hey, I've got 25 minutes. Let's make it 20. I'll get up. I'll go, make a cup of coffee or something. And then I'll come back. I still have 20 minutes to work on something. It can be anything. Usually during a situation like that, it's a song I want to work on because it's a little bit more fun than just an exercise. So, yeah.
And we'll go through how to make practice a bit more enjoyable in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
So I suppose it depends on identifying what you want to practice as well.
Right.
That's what you identify your goals at the start. So I suppose the way you can improve is by, planning what you're going to do.
Well, I think, and this is a good time to talk about the idea of a log.
Yeah.
So we mentioned it earlier, but this idea of planning things out and having goals. Do you keep a log?
I do. I have a big F-off purple log that I have. It's a big diary that I got. By the way, if you're buying a diary, do it now. They're really cheap for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Go in. Most places have prices slashed half price. So yeah, buy a daily planner that will have space for you to do daily entries. I tried the spreadsheet thing before, on Excel, and just basically having everything. It just took the fun out of it. I don't know. It's very it's a good way of keeping records.
Yeah.
But I'm not an accountant.
But some of these people might be.
Yeah,
that's just it. And so I think if it depends upon what suits your personality.
Accountants by day, Guitar Heroes by night. Yeah.
This is why I like this guy. So I've done both essentially, and I usually start my students out on basically an Excel spreadsheet. Write down what you did. Write down how fast you did it. It beats per minute, and the amount of time that you spent on it.
And that comes back to the whole idea of using a metronome. You can figure out a BPM, and you can improve on that on a daily basis. Yeah.
And if you want to see an example of it, we can load one up to the website, and you'll be able to check out exactly what that sort of spreadsheet looks like.
It's good to have a visual reference.
Yeah. Currently, I'm kind of doing essentially like a diary.
Yeah.
So basically, whatever exercise I'm doing, I'm still logging the time and the beats per minute, but I'll note other little things like, hey, third finger was out of place on measure 3, or that stretch is really hard, or wow, that was actually really good today, felt good, beats per minute are up, that sort of thing. And I find being able to write it down and find the specifics as well as the positives, for me that's a big thing, because I can tend to sort of the negative side of things. And so instead I'm able to see progress and be like, no, and encourage yourself. I think that's actually kind of a big thing when it comes to practicing, because
it's really easy to get down on yourself.
Yeah, especially when you listen to really good guitar players and you're like, oh, I'm not that good. But the point is you just want to make progress incrementally, and it's not like these guys were touched by the hand of God from birth and came out and were amazing guitar players. Guitar gods.
Yngwie would probably want you to think that.
Yes. I think Yngwie thinks that. But
yeah, that's a big part of it as well. Just kind of praising yourself, but also One of the benefits of a log is seeing your own improvement, being able to kind of reflect after a week of practicing and seeing where you've improved. Because if you can see improvement, it's going to make you want to do it more.
And that's a huge thing I tell my students too. It's like, this is why you keep it. And so as we go through it, and then I can point out, hey, a month ago, you couldn't do this at half the speed.
Yeah.
Now you're twice as fast, and it sounds better.
Yeah.
So
think of what will happen in the next month.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've got BPM, we've got the amount of time you spend on each exercise. Anything else?
I think it's a good idea to have some goals.
Yeah.
You're big on kind of planning it out the day before.
Yeah, I started doing that just because I know that if I know what I'm supposed to do, it makes it less of a chore. Because this can seem like a chore. If you've got something you want to improve on something, but you've got so many other things to do, it can be like a chore. So I find that if I have a schedule of things to do and tick off and practice within the allotted time, I find it makes me want to do it a whole lot more. But you come from kind of a different perspective.
Yeah, sort of. Like what I'm trying out right now is something that's more, I have kind of a fixed number of exercises to do. So I've got like 3 groups with particular emphases and just try to get through all 3 groups of those exercises. That doesn't always happen, so I might bump a particular exercise to the next day. So I'm still planning ahead.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to have long-term goals as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Learn a song or be able to play this exercise or this riff at a particular beats per minute or at least as fast as.
And all of that can be incremented into your daily practice. If you have a solo to learn, take 4 bars and just practice that for a week.
Yeah, and that's huge. We'll spend a whole episode talking about breaking up your practice routine like that.
Cool. I think that's us done for today.
Yeah, I think that's a solid prototype. We are currently at 30 minutes.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Time flies when you're talking about nerdy guitar stuff. We're trying to think of a name for this if it goes well, and I've enjoyed this. You have as well.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're
Go team.
yakking about guitar. I don't know what we're going to call this. Listen, send us your feedback. We'd really appreciate it. I've been Dylan Murphy,
and I'm John Gillen, and we're guitar people.
We're not calling guitar people.